Why don't we have camera? Hello, hello, hello. I'm having weird camera problems. I don't know if you can even hear me right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are having some weird streaming issues. Be right back in a second. Hey, there we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here for NXT tonight, which is a little bit weird for me. However, my camera keeps stopping. So maybe we aren't here for NXT tonight. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. You probably can hear me. I just don't think you can see me. Choose video. No. So NXT is just getting started. I'm going to restart my camera. Trick Williams, everybody. Ladies and Jenny. Oh my goodness, it's Trick Williams. What is he doing? Showing up to work at the place that he works. Hello, hello, hello. So we got a microphone. I don't know why my camera's not working. I'm having some weird camera issues. I might need to end my stream. I'll be right back, I think. Huh. Maybe I won't be streaming tonight, guys. We're having some very weird technical issues. Camera's working again, but it's frozen. Trick Williams lost a piece of himself, ladies and gentlemen. We're having some very weird technical issues. I had some follow. I know there's some people watching. I apologize while we're working on it. Not sure why our cameras aren't working. Having some very strange issues, guys. We're working on it. Right now, you're just looking at an overexposed, frozen, weird freeze frame of me, so I apologize for that, but hopefully we're getting it working. Let's see. Does that got us? No. Still frozen. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm going to go switch cameras. I'll be right back. Very strange. Very, very strange. worst of all, I'm like missing the show. All right, see if that did it. Extra camera. Did I lose my camera again? How did I lose the camera? Let's see what's going on. You know, guys, I'm just having a crap load of camera problems tonight. If I guess now. Welcome, presentation, add scene. Camera. New scene. No. Let's see. Rename, pass. Oh, this is so weird. There we go. We're back. Sorry about that. All right, now we're back. When she knocks this... Why is she acting weird? Rage is human. He's not a robot. He is definitely 100% absolutely not a robot. Oh, they're like trying to make her seem mature, but instead she just seems weird. That was a weird promo. Yeah, it was a weird promo. Trick! I'm gonna say whoop that trick, guys. Whoop that trick. Whoop that. Whoop that trick. Whoop that trick. Whoop that. That was a weird little dance the trick did. Yeah, he's that guy's got a rocket strapped to his back. It's a little weird that they're maybe because I guess he doesn't need the title anymore. Like they can just use him, and now it's really just about getting him experienced and like letting him have feuds, getting him on the microphone, and like giving him the experience and the exposure that he needs. I think is probably more valuable than having him be a champion, right? Because we already know who he is. Like he's been elevated. He's shown that he can hold the title and hold it well. And now you get to have time with him doing the chase. I just hope they don't lose him. Like they don't blow it. Thanks, man. I'll pop you up on the screen. Thank you so much. Welcome. I normally do not do NXT, so forgive me because I'm not like super NXT conversant. But welcome. Thank you for watching. Yeah, I hope that they keep Trick. I think that like they're obviously just getting Trick ready to move him up because he's such a huge star and he's got so much charisma and like he's he's funny. I use my wife to sort of rate and rank how all these guys work. And he's one of those guys that like when he is on the screen, um my wife like freezes because she is so like just completely instantly in love with him because he's just so sort of beautiful and so like enchanting and so electrifying. And I think that tends to be a pretty good sign for how well someone's gonna do. And I think his biggest challenge, the thing that he's really got to work on, is just getting his in ring skills up to snuff. Because I think like you can still see that he's a little bit green and like, although that four corner match that he did at the pay per view or at the PLE rather was fantastic. Like I think that's probably the best he's been. Um, yeah, he feels like I think like just even oh, eeh, that was a blown move right there. I don't know what that was supposed to be. Yeesh. Right when I was about to say like, hey, he just looks head and tails above everyone else, you have the guy who like wipes out right in front of him. There you go. He does like he just looks like a star. Everybody else looks like they're training. I don't recognize Cedric Alexander either. He also feels like another one of these guys, sort of like Ashanti. Let's see. Let's look up Cedric Alexander really quick. Cedric Alexander. No, he's been around for a little while. Also a Ring of Honor guy. No, he was with Caprice Coleman. Oh, he worked with Kota Ibushi. Oh, he's from okay. He's from the Hurt Business. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. He's one of those guys. Uh, that being said, does not he's not having a great round. Does not look great. But you know, that's part of the thing too though, is like that's part of the job, right? Like part of what their whole thing is as wrestlers is not just like being not just being good for themselves, but making the other guys look good. And when they're not when they, you know, when the other guys biff and screw up, like they're supposed to cover for them. And that's just something that he's too young to know any better. You know, he doesn't have he doesn't have the skills yet. Oh, we lost connection there for a second. It looks like. Sorry about that. I am just having technical problems galore tonight, guys. But it looks like we're back on. I think we're on. I think we're on and good. Yeah, I think, you know, like he's one of those guys that once he's in the right shape and once he's in the got the right amount of training and they move him to the main roster, I think the sky's the limit for him. Um, but you know, that being said, like I feel like everyone kind of thought that with Carmelo Hayes, but the problem with Carmelo Hayes is they moved him while he was a heel. And, you know, and so moving him while he was a heel, like I think has been pretty detrimental to him because now like you can't use his natural charisma. Like the last time he was in main roster, he was a face, and then he comes over and he's a heel, and like you have all this, you have like the thing that he was the main guy that he was a heel against was Trick, and so he's sort of left in the middle of that story, and you don't get to really do anything with it. Like that story was super hot, and that's the story that you want to see him involved in, but Trick isn't there. You know, so he sort of became unmoored. Like he didn't really have anything to deal with or do anything with. Um, and consequently, like, you know, Carmelo, I think, has really struggled to catch on. Yeah, they could have, what they could have done, and maybe they still will, is they could have put Carmelo with Ilya Dragunov. Because I really, like, I'm pretty critical of what they're doing with Dragunov and Braun Breaker, because I think they're actually doing a lot of damage to Dragunov for the sake of building up Braun Breaker. And, like, they've already done it enough. They don't need to keep bouncing those two off each other. Because all they're doing at this point is hurting Dragunov. They're not really doing Breaker any favors anymore because like they've already established that he can kick the crap out of Ilya Dragunov. You know, so I think maybe there's a world where they could start moving that story on and put the two of them together and kind of pick up on some of the stuff from what they were doing in NXT and let Dragunov and Carmelo have stories together. Which, by the way, would also then allow them to start setting the table to bring Trick up. Like I feel like that might be a better use of all three of these guys. Listen. Oh, that was nice. Oof. That was brutal. I believe in Joe Hendry to the point where my daughter can't stand him because I just sit around singing it all the time and we play the song constantly. I feel bad for TNA because when they lose him, it's going to be a huge blow to their roster, I think. It's going to be really detrimental to them. Um, but I think like TNA showed some pretty amazing self-restraint not giving him the title this weekend. Although I suspect that might be because they don't quite have him locked up in enough of a contract to want to give him the contract, to want to give him the title knowing that he might leave to go to NXT. But if ever there was a guy who would benefit from being in the WWE sort of training facility, I think it's Joe Hendry. I think he's really talented. Um, I think he's like immensely talented, but I think like what he could learn from Shawn Michaels and their training staff would put him over because I think he's got everything but the wrestling at like at 100. Like I think he's like a 98 on the wrestling front. Like I feel like there's something just a little bit not quite there on the wrestling side. Um, and like part of that is I think everybody when you watch TNA, there's something about how they're produced and how like the camera work is done that just doesn't feel polished. And when you work at WWE, um, like I think about this a lot because I make videos. I love AEW and WWE equally, and I make videos about both, and get criticized relentlessly for videos about both. The difference between the companies, I find, the production in WWE is fantastic. Cameras are always in the right place. It's directed really well. Everybody is made to look as good as humanly possible. And so like you learn when you work at WWE, you learn how to work in like ultimate perfect setting and how those settings make you look fantastic. AEW, you're required to be excellent. Like in AEW, you're required to be excellent because the production is a little bit sloppier and not quite there. So because it's not together and because it's not like the camera work is a little bit loose, like more loosey goosey, and because the production's like just not quite as there, everybody on the AEW roster is required to be phenomenal. And so the quality of worker that you have at AEW is better. So I think you genuinely do have better wrestlers at AEW. I think at TNA the problem is that you don't have better workers and you don't have better production. And so what you end up having is you end up having a product that feels really sloppy. Um and I can think of examples like in WWE, there like a really good example to me was on Raw last night when Dragunov took that spear and hit his head. The camera was in the wrong place. He like it was shot wrong. And so it was really unclear what happened, and that's why like when the ref threw the match out, you were sort of like, "Wait, what's going on? Why is the match getting thrown out?" The whole thing felt weird. So like Whereas, like, for example, there was a similar beat, right? Like on AEW last week in the MJF Osprey match, they totally biffed showing the ring, which was the climax of that match. And like the most important part of that match was like as great, and that match was a masterpiece, like just an absolute masterpiece. But the payoff to that match was that MJF pulled out a ring and punched him in the head, right? When punched Will Ospreay in the head, and the camera missed it. That would not happen at the WWE. There would be like 3 cameras all set watching him put his hand in his trunks and pull out that ring. And like we didn't get that, and like I can just imagine Triple H being like on the fucking warpath about it. Triple H would have turned into Vince McMahon because of it. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Um, but a lot of the TNA production guys, if I'm right, I think a lot of the better TNA production guys ended up going to AEW, as did a bunch of WWE guys. Which is part of why I mean AEW just looks better than TNA. I mean it's still infinitely better. Like the quality is still infinitely better than what you have on TNA. Um, but it's still not to the same level. Like the production level that you get out of WWE is just sensational. Sorry guys, I'm getting inundated. So we're going all in. We are in deep in the second hour here, as we're getting closer and closer to the end of our show. Oh my god, the Shaq commercial. They just show the Shaq couch commercial all the time. He just loves those couches, this guy. He's so excited to have a recliner, a lazy boy. He's just so excited about it. That's all I'm saying. He just really wants a lazy boy. Hmm. But yeah, I'm real excited. This when I go to Comic Con later this week, I think I'm gonna be going. There's a bunch of AEW stuff. There's no real WWE stuff at Comic Con this year, but there's a panel. There's an AEW panel where I have a sneaking suspicion that they might announce their TV deal. Um, and then there is a signing at the DC Comics booth where I don't know that I have a signing scheduled at the DC Comics booth, but I do work there, so I'm gonna try and sneak my way into that booth and see if I can meet me some wrestlers. If I can meet me some Tony Storm, and not tell my wife because she'll be jealous, for many reasons. And then there's also a weird Adult Swim event where Orange Cassidy and Willow Nightingale are gonna wrestle fictional characters. So I'm pretty excited about that too. Oh, it's that girl from the reality show. Oh, I know. You know what? I know there's a lot of people who just don't, who it just doesn't do anything for them. And I can't blame you for not liking it. I really like it. But I really like WWE too. Here's my thing, and I talk about this. I have a video that went up a couple days ago where I talk about why AEW getting, if their Warner Brothers deal went through, which I'm pretty sure it did. But when that deal goes through, why it's such a big deal. The thing about AEW at its root, whether you like it or not, is that its existence has made wrestling better in general, right? It's opened up opportunities for wrestlers to make more money. It's upped the creative competition between all of the brands so that you're now getting the better quality of wrestling that we're getting from WWE. Like it is very directly, like you can very directly chart the success of WWE right now to the arrival of AEW. Number two, and number three, like it's just proving to the world that wrestling is not just WWE. Because when wrestling was just WWE, wrestling got crappy. Because there was like, you know, essentially like when you start having one of anything, when you get into having a monopoly, quality always goes down. And frankly, even just having a duopoly isn't great. And so that's why having TNA success, being successful is a good thing too. Like we need TNA to be successful because it helps to diversify and to have more, more variety and more chances for quality to grow and come forward. We wouldn't have Joe Hendry. And that seems worth it to me more than anything. Not to mention, where was Joe Hendry before TNA? He was in Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor at the end of the day wouldn't exist if it wasn't for AEW right now. AEW keeps them alive. So that being said, the most amazing thing about doing what I've been doing these past few months now, writing about wrestling so much, is the sheer amount of vitriol between AEW and WWE fans is borderline insane. Like it is genuinely shocking how much AEW people and WWE people despise that the other ones exist or are unable to like recognize that the others exist and are allowed to have feelings. It's very strange. Um, I find it really, I find it really fascinating, and I say this like as a former comic book writer or as a comic book writer. I guess I'm not a former comic book writer because I write comic books still. Um, but like as somebody who has worked for DC and Marvel, we always sort of had a bit of a rivalry between DC and Marvel that was always a little mysterious to us as creators because we just went where their money was. And like I preferred the characters in one of the companies because they're the ones I read as a kid, but like as somebody who was working, one of the companies always treated its employees really well and one of the companies always treated its employees really badly. And one of the companies always paid really well and one of the companies always paid its employees really badly. And those companies were not the same company. Uh and so like what was sort of interesting is like the fans when there was this rivalry
amongst the fans about DC versus Marvel, we as like the creators who actually made our living working for these companies, were always a little shocked by it because there was no basis in the reality of how things were. It was like, well, if you guys only knew how we get treated, or if you knew how we were getting paid, you probably wouldn't be talking the way that you're talking about these companies. And I think that's sort of the reality of Marvel, of AEW and WWE and TNA for that matter as well. You know, and I think like everybody sort of reads into what happened with the CM Punk situation, thinking that they have like absolute knowledge about what happened and how it went down, and that is some kind of like absolute bellwether for how these companies behave and how they treat their talent and all that stuff. But the reality is like everybody's treated differently. I know, to use my own experience again, working for different companies, like I've worked, forget even companies, I've worked for people. You know, I can think of a handful of bosses I've worked for that are like, I've had horrendous nightmare experiences working for some people that other people think are the best bosses they've ever had, and vice versa. You know, like everybody's experiences are just different based on your own life experience and like your own situation. The only universal truth is that competition is good. I love Shawn Michaels. I love little put upon Shawn Michaels. It's such a weird, it's very like unbelievable. Oh man, and the commercials are just so loud and painful, all simultaneously. It's just so much to handle. I really like. I posted a when I posted that the other day. I posted on Monday. I posted a clip from Raw, the clip of Dom Mysterio tearing into Liv Morgan, and I like the reactions are essentially everybody being like, "God damn, Dom is so mean. Why is he so mean to Liv?" Everyone's just so hurt for her because I think everybody has just had somebody say some mean shit like that to them, especially if you're a wrestling fan. You're like, I've had girls be mean to me. I know what it's like. I've been Liv Morgan. Although I severely doubt any of us have been as beautiful as Liv Morgan. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that part is unique to her. No offense. No offense to anybody. I don't mean to offend anybody who is as beautiful as Liv Morgan, who might be listening to this or watching this. But I, for one, can tell you that I do not have the experience of being as beautiful as Liv Morgan and spoken to the way that Dominic Mysterio did. But I do have the former. I do have the experience of being spoken to like that. And it hurts. It really, really hurts. I find it, and I also find it fascinating. I talked a little bit about on my podcast about that episode. I talked a little bit about how weird it is that the storyline with Gunther and Priest is like weirdly similar to the storyline that they're doing with MJF and Will Ospreay over in AEW. There's actually like a lot of similarities to what's going on in the storyline with Liv and Dom and Rhea Ripley and what they've been doing with the Toni Storm storyline. I bet you're as beautiful as Liv. Let me throw that up on the screen. I'm gonna save that. That is saved for posterity right there. You know, like I think that I don't know why I don't have the overlay on. Throw the overlay on right there. There we go. Hey, here's my overlay. There's actually a lot of similarities there with the Liv Morgan storyline and the with Liv Morgan and the Liv Morgan Dom Rhea storyline and what they are doing over in the Toni Storm storyline, especially with what I think is probably going to happen with the payoff to that story, which is her turning. Joe Hendry. Oh, guys, we got Joe Hendry. He appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Bump, bump. I believe in Joe Hendry. This video is going to get taken down. How weird. And Tokyo. No way. Oh, I thought he was going to show up. That's amazing. That's amazing. Amazing. I can't believe that they made an entire video package that's just about how Joe Hendry's awesome. It is not moving story forward. It is accomplishing nothing. Holy shit. This is amazing. That is fantastic. Oh, Christ. Delightful. Yes. I do not disagree with you, my friend. I mean, I think that's probably why they put the belt on Nick Nemeth this weekend, right? Because Nick Nemeth, number one, is probably not coming back. They have him signed to a new contract, so he's not going anywhere for a while. Uh, and like he's also the most expensive guy uh, on their books. So it's like you're gonna get the best. Weird. God, I love Ethan Page. I'm so happy for him. He seems like such a good dude. The 1-2-3 got over now. It's great. All right, so we're getting ready for the end of the show. Ah. Oh, we're so close. This last commercial break is like punishment from God. Why? Why can't it be over? On the upside, maybe it's a long break because we're not going to get another break in the middle of the match, but I doubt it. Oh, finally, the referee instructions. I've been waiting for those. God, wrestling is weird sometimes. Oh, I always forget. So I have one set. This is actually genuinely my last set that I have. I wrote Batman: Brave and the Bold, the last issue of which my arc comes out. Comes out later this week. Comes out tomorrow, actually. Right here. Ta-da. And I'm gonna give away. This is the last set that I have. And I'm going to go with fire damage because you've been hanging out with me for the longest amount of time. So do me a favor, man. Drop me an email at josh@wrestlingwithstory.com, and I will drop a copy of these in the mail to you. Again, that's josh@wrestlingwithstory.com with your name and address, and I will drop a full set of all three. What? Hold on a second. Something more important is happening. Oh, it's just a song. Let me throw that up on the screen for you. So there you go. Send me an email with your name and address, assuming you're in North America and not somewhere like I had somebody the other day who was in the Middle East, and that makes it very hard for me to send you comics. But I will send you free comics. Just drop me an email right now, and that is the end of my free comics that I'm giving away. All yours. Name, address, and I will drop them in the mail when I get back from Comic-Con. I'm gonna take that ticker away. Sweet, cool. That's right. If you watch live, for everybody who's watching the overrun, because I know we get like weirdly, there's usually like 100+ people watch these after the fact, which I find mysterious. But if you watch live with us, there are prizes. I like to give away stuff because I have tons of comics in my house that I wrote, and I like to mail them away. Just say Batman Brave and the Bold comics. It's a good match. Cool, man. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thanks for hanging out. I hope you come back. Oof. Hot damn. I don't know, man. If you like this, I don't know why you wouldn't like AEW. This is what AEW is like. It's like this for 2 hours. With a little, with like more story. Oof. Oh, fantastic. Look at that. Look at the YouTube algorithm working the way it's supposed to work. I make long form videos too, so just check it all out. Follow me on Instagram. I do a lot. I make a lot of content. This is a passion project for me. I've really found a lot of joy doing this, a lot of pleasure. So it's always nice to hear that people are finding what I'm doing and are enjoying it. Oof. Damn. Oof. That's close. Man, for having only done this for like 6 months, however long that kid's been doing it, he is real good. I have a potty mouth, but I'm pretty aware of it because I have a 14-year-old, so she's a little less language offended. Um, but I also, God damn it, there's another commercial. Um, so I also, so I'm aware of it. And like again, my whole thing, what I'm interested in and why I wanted to start doing this is, I'm really fascinated in a broad sense with the way that like how my experience as a writer and as a producer and as a creator in general, like all the stuff that I learned from wrestling and how I apply it to what I do in my other job and all my other jobs and how I've like really learned over the years and years that I've been doing this, like how those two things intersect. And so I try and talk about it from like a place that's not so much just being a fanboy and not so much just marking out, but actually talking about it from hopefully a little more intellectual place. And also talking about, how I would do it if I was in charge of creative, but doing it from the place of being a showrunner or being a comic book creator. Um, that's the idea, anyways. And then I talk about it just from knowing how the TV business works and knowing how TV production works, and because I've done all that stuff for a really, really long time. And that's actually sort of what I find most impressive about wrestling is, we when we make television, and I've worked on everything from network TV to streaming to live specials to award shows to like I've done kind of everything. I've done like a really wide swath of stuff. Um, but when we make it, even at its most complicated, you're never doing it at the volume and speed and pressure that they make wrestling. And the fact that wrestling gets made at all and gets made so well is really just remarkable. Um, and I think there's like a degree of aspiration to do better, especially right now. Like I really think that that AEW and WWE are really aspiring to make something meaningful that moves the medium forward and reaches a new audience. And I think that that's really special. I think we live in a really special time right now that we haven't had in a long time. And even when we were in the middle of the Attitude Era, which was the last time we had this much of a expanse, where we were expansion, um, it was done in such a way that like it was really just a money grab. it was really good. You know, like the quality of what was being made was awesome, but so much of it was just about like what's the quick money we can make and like how do we. It was very carnival barkery. Whereas now, like there seems to be like a genuine appreciation of the art form and of the artists that are making it, and I find that so fascinating to watch and to talk about. So, and that's really the that's really the background of why I do what I do and why I'm so fascinated by it and why I love doing it so much. And hopefully why I get to, hopefully I'll get to do it for a while because, I think we're in the middle of this amazing golden age that's not going anywhere for a while. Damn. Oof. Oh, for comics, I just write. Uh, I mean, I do graphic design and I do a lot of design work just because part of working in comics, I ran a small press when I first started. And so I learned graphic design and, being in visual arts, like you end up having to learn all that stuff as well. Um, and writing comics is a lot like doing a shooting script. So you have to have a really good visual sense when you're writing. Because writing comics is a lot like directing. Uh, but no, I always wish I could draw. I always wished I could draw. And my very first, when I first was starting in comics, part of how I broke in was I did mini comics and I did online comics, web comics, uh, that I drew myself, but they are terrible, because that was always the gimmick was that I couldn't draw. But no, I actually left comics almost entirely behind for about a decade and a half as I went and I worked in television almost exclusively for about 15 years. Uh, and then I only recently went back to comics because the TV industry has been the TV industry is just in a complete state of decline right now. It's sort of shocking actually, which is the other really interesting thing about wrestling is that it's become in the middle of this like huge contraction of the TV industry, like it is the model for what is going to be successful in this new era because it's a hybrid, right? Like it's both narrative and reality and sports all in one. Oof. But if you go and look, sort of, like it's throw that up. Um, like we were in a real big expansive golden age because of streaming, but the problem is that the streaming era was sort of a house of cards, pardon the pun. And so much of it was built on false business. Um, and the combination of the pandemic and excuse me a second, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Um, the combination of the pandemic, and then we just had our big writer strike and the actor strike, all those things combined to just really put a kibosh on the recovery. And the industry is just not recovered, and frankly, I don't know that it ever will go back to what it was prior. um Reality is a different thing. um and reality's in a huge decline right now too. It's sort of shocking. I have a ton of friends who work in reality, and almost all of them are out of work as well. uh the the vast majority of people I know in television, period, in reality, in game shows, in drama, in comedy, in every aspect, executives, creative, in post, in production, in pre-production, in every single aspect of television, the vast majority of them are out of work right now. It's genuinely wild. Like, I've never seen anything like it before. It's really pretty fascinating to watch. And by fascinating, I mean terrifying, because I have a mortgage and a kid and, groceries to buy, stuff like that. Which is a great time for me to plug. I don't know if you've seen, we do have fantastic. Oh, they always drop off. I don't know why they always drop off. May I recommend some of our fantastic merch? This one's my favorite. Let me see. Add the list. I don't know why they don't stay. We actually have fantastic merch for sale, which is also a great way to support us and show that you love us. Uh, oh yeah, man. As a programmer right now, I also work in video games, and like the video game industry is a complete train wreck right now too. This is my favorite T-shirt. If ever I were to pick a T-shirt that I made, I love this T-shirt so much. I'm a big fan. Oh. Yeah, it's interesting for us. I don't think AI. Wow. I don't think AI is going to be the thing that wipes out TV, actually. Like, I think that what we do is still, at least my part of TV being a writer, like, AI hasn't replaced us and probably won't replace us. But I also think that, you know, the reality is that uh, we're going to get, um, I think the reality is that, man, look at them go. What a great match. I think the reality is that, what we do is still special enough that um, they're not going to take away what we do. Like, you can't really replace us realistically with AI. But, you know, that being said, they just are not. What they're using AI for is for deciding what they greenlight and what they approve and what chances they take. And so because of that, they're approving less stuff and less stuff is getting made. And the less shows that get made, um, and the less jobs that exist, that means the less shows get made. Like the less choice, the less risks are getting taken, and that means that I used to sell a show a year, um, in development, and whether those shows get made or not is another story. Like, I've never had a show produced that I sold, but I was living off that development money. And now that money is gone because they're not taking risks on development because they're using AI and they're using focus grouping and all that stuff, to essentially decide every single decision that they make. And that is a terrifying process, that terrifying prospect, because they're no longer just using good taste and common sense, you know? And that is it for NXT tonight. That really flew by. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I will get those comics in the mail to you. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you for following. Again, you can follow me, like you said, over on YouTube at Wrestling with Story. I'm also on Instagram at Wrestling with Story. You can follow me on Twitter at Josh Fialkov, on Twitch at Josh Fialkov, and you can also download. I do a podcast that comes out about 3 times a week where I do both recaps of episodes of the show and I interview other creators of television, graphic novels, film, all sorts of stuff. And I'm gonna have some special episodes from San Diego Comic-Con later this week where I'm going to hopefully get to talk to some more cool wrestling related people. So do me a favor, find that on Spotify or wherever you get your finest podcasts. That is Wrestling with Story with Joshua Hale Fialkov. So thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go eat dinner because it is 7:10 here, which is pretty late for me. Again, man, thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you. Thank you to everybody for hanging out. Thanks again. Have a good one. Good night, good night, good night, and wrestling